Welcome to the Post Float Podcast.
I'm so obsessed with just the float tank's a weird spot. That's like the only time I actually get to kind of breach into those concepts and thoughts, and that's why I love being alone. But man, it's like you need in this amount of time to enter into those realms.
Yeah. Oh man.
Right, let's see.
Yeah, you do. That was interesting. Fourth time was great.
All right, nice, man.
I think it's fourth time.
That's-
Well, I guess
Sounds about right.
I got a roll in here, so we're ready to go.
We're rolling?
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Sweet.
So cheers.
Should we
Welcome
do
back,
cheers
guys.
post float?
All right.
Cheers, post float.
Cheers Grady.
Cheers. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on.
We survived. We made it to the
Yes.
other side.
We
Welcome.
did.
So yeah, we're back on the Post Flow podcast with your hosts Levi. I'm Jesse, and today we have a special guest. We have Grady McGuire from the Nebraska Beer30 Podcast.
Nebraska Beer30 Podcast.
Yes, I was actually going to ask you to do that. Like, will you please, yeah, I know I just introduced you, but will you introduce yourself using the awesome podcast voice that you have?
Yeah. Welcome to the That's great.
Nailed
Screwed
it.
up. The Nebraska Beer30 Podcast.
Dude.
You do have the perfect podcast
Cheers!
voice, man.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Cheers to goofy radio voices.
I love it.
This is our first time having beer on the Post Float
Is it?
podcast.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude, I'm honored to bring you guys beer.
Kristen.
Well, you brought that one, Jesse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're sipping on.
Yeah,
if you're
I
not
like that
watching the video podcast, Jesse and I are sipping on White Elm Raspberry Saison, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. And then what's the one you brought?
So I
Jesse?
brought
Yeah.
Cosmic Eye just up over here off of 84th here in Lincoln, Nebraska. They
great.
did a custom-made beer for this heavy metal band from the East Coast called Your Cut Off, but the metal band that they made it for is called Municipal Waste. And they are
Nice.
so awesome and so heavy, and it's like super thrash metal, and they bring like boogie boards to their concerts so you can like literally crowd surf.
No way.
And so yeah, the owners of Cosmic Eye is apparently a huge metalhead.
They
and
did a
made,
great job, man.
Made some really killer beer for this band.
Where did
He's
he
a
get the
huge
graphics
metalhead.
here? Is this one of their albums or something?
It looks a lot like one of their style of graphic.
yeah,
Like,
it's cool.
it's
He's
so cool.
he's done a few beers in collaboration with bands.
Has he?
Really?
Yeah, he loves music. He loves heavy metal. Their whole scheme is funny. The whole atmosphere of Cosmic Eye. Have you guys been to Cosmic Eye?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's just death metal everywhere.
Yep.
They got like the kids' playroom though.
Yeah,
Like-
and I love their T-shirts are fantastic. I just saw they released these T-shirts that said in like metal writing, death metal writing,
Right.
kind of like on that can there. It says "Give us your children," and then underneath in small print it says "For arts and crafts Monday nights."
And like a different font.
Yep.
So awesome.
Oh, dude, they crack me up.
So
man.
who is this gentleman that is such a metalhead? He's making beer for awesome metal bands. Do you know this guy?
Yeah, Sam Riggins. He was actually on.
Yeah, you had him on.
Yeah.
Right.
I had him on. I should look up episode numbers.
Ah.
Yeah, I had him on the podcast, and he was awesome to talk to. Super down to earth, knows his beer. Just an overall great guy. As far as I can tell, just very level headed. Runs a great business. People love what he does with his beer.
Place is cool. Honestly,
yeah.
It is.
it has a good vibe to it. They have that live edge wood everywhere.
Yeah.
It's got kind of like the. It's like you can geek out in many different ways. You can metal geek out. As the kid that was that kid walking through the hallways like, oh, I'm gonna find my metal friends, and now I got a tribe.
You're at home.
But you can nerd out on like they kind of have some Star Warsy stuff in there. They
Yep,
have a little bit of everything.
Well, it used to
man.
be the laser tag, right? Isn't that the?
I don't know
Yeah,
what they.
yeah. It used to be
really?
the old Laser Quest. I think is what it was
Yes,
called.
that is right.
And they kept some of the Laser Quest
Yeah.
stuff in there.
That's right.
Some of the paint on the wall
That's why
and
it's
stuff
so
like that.
cool.
Yeah.
It is cool.
I mean,
Oh man, I remember going there when I was a kid. It was like the coolest thing in the world to go to Laser Quest. To go in there and did you guys ever go
I only did the one out on by Star City.
out?
Yeah, by the interstate?
north north. Yeah, 27th.
Yep.
Laser.
But it was
did you ever
fun.
go to Laser Quest? Jesse?
No,
it
not
was
here.
Awesome, man. Marshall. That was something you had if you ever got in trouble. Like if you ever tripped and fell or got hurt in there.
That's how you got help?
You'd have to call for the marshal. Marshall. But it was
I
so
can't
much,
believe I never went in there.
it was so much fun. And that's probably why they shut down, is because people
Right.
didn't go in there.
Is that like a staple? I mean, how long ago has it been there forever?
It was when I was growing up. It was there for a
God,
long time.
Literally, it was oblivious to
But
that.
it's in that weird section of that mall.
Are you from Lincoln?
I am,
Originally?
born and
Okay.
raised. Yeah,
He's a townie.
Nice.
I'm a townie. Yeah.
Nice.
Never left.
Yeah, I didn't actually move to Lincoln until like 2012 or 13.
Really? Where are you
Yeah.
from, Jesse?
Originally Las Vegas. I moved to a tiny town
right.
of Falls City in 2001 when I was 14, and so I'm over half Nebraskan now.
No,
Nice.
This is home
Full
now.
Nebraskan. Full Nebraskan.
I don't
born
know
in
if
the
it
state of
was,
shock.
I don't know if Laser Quest was around when I moved here.
Yeah.
I think
It may not have been.
So that's what I'm wondering. I'm thinking it's been longer than most people's memories are accurate because
Yeah.
I don't know about it, but I'm not a Lincolnite.
Where are you from?
Originally from Grand Island, and
Grand
then
Island,
so
nice.
I went just dirty Grand Island until I graduated, and then hopped all over the place until I ended up back in Lincoln.
I had the most random thought about Grand Island the other day. Just like, what's so grand about this island?
It's not even an
I should
island.
know my Grand Island history. There's actually a reason it was called that. I think it's surrounded by enough rivers or something. Maybe
Really?
I don't know.
the Platte.
It was
The
a
old man.
The Grand Island. Yeah, what high pioneer came up with that? This must be an island.
Well, we used to always call it the Funk growing up there until we realized there was
There's a
actually a
town.
Funk.
Oh, there's a
Nebraska.
fun
Yeah, like,
Nebraska.
Yeah.
I just remember like Grand Island was an awesome place, but just like many towns in the Midwest part of the country, methamphetamines made it came in for a caveat here and there, and it changed gears quite dramatically. I think during my high school years. And man, it was a rough one. It went from a place where the town you grow up where you don't lock the door, you leave your car in the parking lot, whatever, don't care.
Yep.
It switched pretty fast. It did a 180, and then I don't know if it's fully recovered yet, but it always felt muddy after that. Like it was that town you'd go to, and it wasn't like I'm back home. It felt like you're sluggishly walking through, and you're like, I just need to leave.
Things are different now.
Things not right.
Different
man.
now. Yeah.
like dark. A little ominous.
It's time to get out.
Yeah.
What was your meth experience like?
Oh, by my third time.
It's kind of like floating. It takes time to get into it.
I knew
You haven't really
better.
done it until you've got to number 5, right? Like,
Yeah. That's
You just got to kill off a few brain cells. Find
Yep.
that. You got to find the balance, though. You kill off too many, it's a downward slope. It's a
Exactly.
gateway drug. But before that, I mean, hey, man, you might just hit the money spot.
And if you lose 2 or 3 teeth, that's fine.
It's okay.
but
It's
Anything
okay.
over 3, you got a problem.
Yeah.
That's when you know.
You're doing
Yeah.
full dentures, and you're like, that's expensive. One veneer here or there, no big deal. You can save up. You're
Yeah.
good. You're safe. You
Rather
sell a little bit, get a tooth.
I hear it's a
Yep.
lucrative business.
Get a tooth. Sell a little bit, get a tooth,
Yeah.
and some meth.
Just I do this much, I save this much
It's
for my
a
teeth.
method.
Dude,
Yeah,
what?
it's a meth to this method.
Nice. What a great business idea. Be a meth dealer that also sells veneers.
Oh, it's 100.
Veneer
Yeah, it's a
teeth.
win-win.
Boom.
Oh, man.
Yes.
The meth dentist.
Breaking Bad ain't got shit on
Yeah.
this venture.
There's so many jobs like that where if it didn't exist, the job wouldn't exist, right? Like even like policing, I guess, if you think about that. Like if you did
Yeah.
too good of a job, you don't exist anymore. Right.
Yeah,
That's
you're
a bad
just gone.
example.
Or are they creating their own jobs?
Right.
Dun, dun,
The
dun,
conspiracy.
dun. Conspiracy.
What's it like being on a podcast post float now?
Dude,
You just
awesome.
drop right in. It doesn't even
Dude.
phase you.
I feel great.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned after finding out that I was almost locked in there
Yeah, we locked you in
for a while.
100%.
Yeah, the guys forgot to start my music.
Yeah.
At the big-
Our bad.
Yeah. which was phenomenal because I got to stay in there a little longer.
You got to experience that kind of mind fuck we like talking about where you love it, but you're almost like, okay, I'm ready to get out, but
Right.
you don't want to
Yeah.
give up, but I'm ready to get out.
Exactly.
I got to keep
yeah.
going.
That happened
Yeah.
like 3 times when I was in there. And I remember sitting there thinking, it's got to be about time, right? And then almost a sudden I thought I heard someone go, Grady? Like almost Almost like someone was outside the door, like, "Hey, we forgot to turn the music on. You can get out now." I was waiting for one of you guys to knock on the actual
on the dome.
Yeah, on the dome, but
I am so sorry.
that is a weird feeling though, because you
It's
have no
weird.
you have no sense of time.
Oh
No
man.
sense of time.
And you're always used to kind of taking control in moments like that because whether you want to admit it or not, you're spending most of your days trying not to die.
Yeah.
So in a moment like that, you're like, well, fuck, I don't want to be the guy who got out.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody else was out. And so I'm just going to lay here. But what if it's, Thursday?
Because
What if the alien already got them and I could escape still if I would just do something about it?
Or I could hide in here. There was a point where I thought, like, maybe I'll just turn the light on and I'll just slide around.
Yeah. Dude, that's fun. It is.
I actually did that before I got out.
Nice.
Just because it's so slick at the bottom of
Yeah.
those things, you can slosh around.
You can do all kinds of weird mobility tricks in there.
Oh, I bet.
At the end, I usually will. Like, if the music goes off, I'll spend a good 5 minutes in there just kind of maneuvering.
Yeah, messing around.
Yeah.
How long do you think it's going to be until people just go to bed in tanks like that? There's like Serta is gone, mattresses are done for, and people just fall asleep in.
I'm pretty sure they
float
have
tanks.
dry float tanks now, which is a
does
super
that work?
oxymoron. I don't know. Honestly, maybe I'm too scared to. I've heard about it, but I've never taken the time to actually peruse and look it up.
no, they had one of those on. Oh my god, it was like a Law and Order episode or something.
Really?
Or SVU or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
In the
I don't even
criminal
know what it
justice
is.
I
system.
can't remember if it was Ice-T.
So my
laying
wife
on
used
one
to
of these-
sleep
one
in
of these
there.
beds,
I
man.
love Ice-T.
Ice-T was in there?
I can't remember who it was.
You're in
But
some serious trouble.
so you tell me this guy was laying on this thing?
yeah. He's laying
Bitch,
on a
shut
dry
up.
bed. Yeah. You gotta be kidding me.
That's so good.
A dry bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to table that and look it up because I have no.
I'm gonna post a link to the episode on
Okay.
on,
I think
on our Facebook
I think I didn't
page.
look it up because my whole bias was like, because it was supposed to give you the same benefits as a float tank minus all the work goes on
That's a
float tank. And I
tough
was like,
one.
yeah, I'm not even gonna Google you.
Yeah. You don't
I don't even
deserve to
deserve
be
a
Googled.
Google.
Maybe I'll Bing you.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I'll Bing you.
Oh man.
You're gonna get
Yahoo
a
you.
Bing.
I'll
No,
ask.
no data represented there.
So we have like big music at the beginning, right? You know.
yeah,
Great,
yeah,
not for
you
Grady.
know,
I've
Grady,
heard
Grady
it's
didn't
that.
do any of that.
Yeah.
But so I heard the music, and I still had the thought, damn, did they forget to? I'm like,
dude, that's great. Dude,
But
do I
no.
forget to turn on my music?
yeah, I
I,
was just like laying there going, damn, did I?
heard in the beginning, but
No,
did I
no.
get to turn it on? Like, is it gonna turn on at the end?
I had a part of my mind was like, did Levi set like a 2-hour timer? Or
Like,
did he-
definitely
At least it's good to know that the masters think that thought too.
Yeah, dude, that's
'Cause
universal.
It's
how many
my favorite.
floats do you guys think you've had?
Great.
I'm
question.
around the 100 mark. I bet I'm around.
Wow.
Floating almost once a week for a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm close to that 100 mark for
Damn,
sure.
that's awesome.
So I'm probably double or triple that. And then, but
Jeez.
man, I was thinking about it. We've got some people that do our unlimited float literally every day, and we've had a few different.
Whoa.
We've had a lot of people do that float package, but we've had a few different people literally take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know, when you sell something, you're like, nobody's actually gonna do that,
And
we got a few people that actually do it. And I was thinking, man, we're open 24 days a month on average. That's 24 floats every single month they're getting. And these are people that usually try to float longer than an hour, maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3
Yeah.
hours. And I'm like, man, what they do in a month is, in a couple months, they do the equivalency of what I do in a year
Mm-hmm.
that's insane.
in a tank.
Oh, I'm so like kind of jealous, Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just like I'm like I don't know, not like jealous, but you know what I mean. Like when you see somebody doing really good, it's like you're kind of like sharing in their success of just
No,
like
yeah, you're like, oh, that's so cool.
like,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I could do that.
yeah,
maybe.
like, oh man, I'm just like
That thought is interesting
crazy.
because what it made me think of too is there's a big piece of the puzzle that we're missing that we aren't capable of doing, being who we are.
right, yeah.
We just don't have the brain synapses to put all this together. We can produce this environment and everything else, but there's an integral part that I think is missing that could be really cool. And that is the person who's willing to put in, 24, hours a month in this environment that nobody takes the time to go. It's this most beneficial environment, especially from a mindfulness standpoint. But man, what if you were doing mindfulness with with all the tools necessary to do the best you could. You know what I mean? Like having the guidance and the repertoire and everything else to be able to take in what you're supposed to take in. Like we have so many people come out of a float and be like, man, I couldn't shut the thoughts off today or whatever. And I almost want to tell them what to do, but I don't. Because
you want them to experience it
I don't have the confidence or competence in my own self-practice to be like, I've got a few years under my belt on, what maybe has worked for me. This is what you should do. I don't feel like some of the intellectual people we all probably follow through podcasts and everything else.
Yep.
They've kind of put a break on me ever moving forward with some of those thoughts or pushing that in the right way. And every time you go practice, I mean, it's that.
Yeah.
It's an hour, and every time you practice something different, I mean, you only get 24 practices if you float it every single day of the month. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the whole point being is
that's insane.
It's amazing, I think, where you could go if you could almost expedite it in a way if we had more conversations about, and we could do it right here. Like, why would you float and/or i.e. do anything like floating? Where do you think it could benefit you? And how could you implement some of those practices in just your everyday life, whether you're distracting yourself or not? You know what I mean? Just have more of those conversations over and over and over again. And not to steal this whole podcast part right here, but we were talking beforehand. I was going to ask Grady, like, why did you get into podcasting? Like, what? Because this will segue back eventually into what I'm saying now. But what made you want to start doing this, man? Why did you want to just start talking?
Like as a host of a podcast, you mean?
Yeah, with Beer30.
Real quick, before I answer that,
okay,
it'd be awesome if you guys got a couple of those people who are doing floats 24 times a month, and to ask them those questions. Why do you do it? What do you think about?
See, that's the thing. It'd be real awesome if we did a ton of this shit. You know, it's almost like I'm still so conceptual in my own brain and like having so much fun just examining this fucking thing, man. And all I did was build a playground of my own and invited other people to come in and partake in it and provide this service and this value that I doubt that they can get anywhere else, and they're willing to pay me for to have it. And so now I'm getting to this point now where there's so much we could do, and I don't even know where I would start to have the time and the logistics and the ability to sit down and maneuver it all, but I'm almost there. I'd say within like a year.
Yeah.
I want to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to bring in people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about.
Not this guy.
But there is such a beauty, and we've went off on this a million times on this podcast, but with mindfulness, with the ability to, just simply be self-aware. But when you say things like mindfulness or be self-aware, those, they have some to them. You're like, hey man, don't forget to be mindful. That's great. But what does that mean? And what can you give somebody to take it a little bit further? What can they introduce in their life? Because my whole thing of kind of starting this podcast was, I think we're all the same. I think we're all terrified of what other people think of each other, ourselves. We self-conceptualize in a lot of manner that is just human nature, but also can be detrimental. Like, what's Grady thinking? Is Grady having a good time? Did Grady like his flow? Is that chair comfortable enough? And then so we self-conceptualize off what we can only imagine other people are thinking of us. Yeah, and that we know that's probably nonsensical. That's not what you are as a self. You're just this thing that's kind of going along through the process, through the ride, etc. So what I want to do is
Excedrin. I always hear Excedrin when people say etc. Sorry.
Is it Excedrin? Oh, that sounds like the plural version of Excedra.
The Excedrin.
Excedrin.
Yeah, it's like the
Sorry,
team.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's like the group, right?
But
I'm on Team Excedrin.
Team Excedrin. Yeah, you touched on something there. Like when I first started the podcast, I had so many fears about just doing it, speaking, and creating something where my voice was going to be recorded and out there for people to listen to. And I was so afraid. And I can tell the first few podcasts that I did, at least I can tell that I was nervous and I was afraid. And I always look back and go, I could have asked that question. I could have said that then. I could have done that. But part of starting the podcast was getting over that fear. Sort of like how your body has to get over the fear of that tank. It takes a couple times, but sooner or later your mind goes, all right, this is safe. I can I can float here, or in the terms of a podcast, like I can say what I want to say here. And that's one thing I was really nervous about starting a podcast was like, am I going to say something that's going to get me in trouble? Am I going to...
There's that too.
Yeah, but then I thought, like I've had 27 years of training of talking to people.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, for 27 years, well, for the most part, 27 years, I've been talking with people, and nothing has really gotten me in trouble talking with people. It's like, I think I can do this. I can do a podcast.
But how many of those 27 years are predicated on you saying exactly what you're willing to say, or how much of it is dialed back due to some type of non-conscious or subconscious or conscious fear?
I thought about this in the tank.
Yeah.
This is cool. I kind of realized around 23, 24 that I was fearful when I was talking to people, like everybody, even my family and closest friends. But yeah, I was just afraid of sounding dumb, or you know what I mean. And but I eventually just decided. I just thought to myself, like, I got to stop being so afraid of talking to people and expressing my opinion. And it was weird. I thought to myself, it was weird too, because like, wow, 23 years and it's just now getting through my head that's
pretty fucking early.
Like I can talk to people and not feel like a dummy.
So I was the opposite, man. I was like, I talked out of my ass for my entire life. And finally I was just like, I should probably start thinking twice about the bullshit I'm talking
Let me dial it back a little bit. That's interesting. That's really interesting, because you're so articulate now, and you're not someone who talks and talks and talks and talks. But sometimes. But it's everything you say though is really interesting.
I really try to be like impeccable with my word, because I'm such a bullshitter. I got sick of my own bullshit. Eventually, I was just like, man, I'm just talking out of my ass. I like talking out of my ass. I think it's fun.
It is fun.
Maybe that's why we started podcasts.
Right? Yeah, dude.
I feel like that's the quagmire I'm at right now. Is I spent most of my life being very concise and very delicate but I've always had this ability to very, very abstractly think and nuance and question and wonder. But everything is so polarized, especially when you're maybe not Lincoln, but small town Nebraska, even Grand Island. Everything's so fucking polarized that the fear sometimes is just wrapped up in the fact that you need to be careful. Your tribe is almost a part of survival at some point in time. And then before you know it, you're not really you're trying to cross-identify or multi-identify or do whatever you ever think or question. It's fucking scary.
Yeah.
And but that's where I think I held so much of it in that now, which is gross, but I'm almost 40 and all I have is verbal diarrhea. And it's like I have so much of it I couldn't get through. It's not possible. I need to be sick for weeks and weeks of just fucking verbally vomiting.
Dude.
But the reason I have trouble with it sometimes is because I almost think that everything is so polarized, and I think that it affects everybody, that there is an implicit, whether conscious or not, fear of coming across as in, I said this, immediately chalk that up as, what is that? Is that blue? Is that red? What is that? Is that up? Is that down? Instead, so you get nervous about, no, I'm really trying to set up dialogue. Not even a debate, not even this, not even a knee-jerk reaction, which, I've got plenty of, but the actual dialogue to talk about some of the subtleties and nuances and the visceral reaction to something that you might not be able to articulate because you're like, I feel that, but what's this? Why does this matter? Why do they think that? And the only way to do that is to allow yourself to just kind of almost just puke on the table. But you almost want to set it up as like a caveat, like benefit of the doubt, guys. I'm gonna fucking vomit all
here it comes.
over. And it's gonna stink, and it's gonna get weird, and you're gonna hope I stop, and then you're gonna realize 3 hours I puked again.
But here are all the pieces to the puzzle.
Maybe, right? Maybe, and I guess what you're doing is you're almost asking for help in a weird way, right? Because I'm only intellectually capable of going so far. So like why I fell in love with floating the most in the first place is I could start to crack open little doors of perception and little conceptualizations where I was like, oh, this is something. And I know it's something, but then I kind of hit a roadblock where I'm like, I need more data. I need more information. Now, I know when I go out to seek that information, if I get it from Grady or if I get it from you, it's already going to be biased in its own way. But I need to continually take in all this information in different ways and keep formulating and then spit it out again and then shake it up. And I'm addicted to that. So what's gotten bad is now I sound like this. Like this has become the product, and it's uncomfortable, and I haven't quite learned how to bring it together.
I think like what you're talking about is like getting over the fear of being able to have like an open dialogue without someone else identifying you with what it is you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like it's like
true, but my biggest fear is actually putting somebody in a position they don't want to be in. That's actually what it is. Is like, of course I have the fear of like, I don't want to be identified, but
or having somebody else be like identified with like this. You know what I mean? Like, you could talk about some messed up stuff,
right?
And then,
dude,
like,
we can like. I want one of those bubbles.
Oh no! sorry. Dropped the beer.
First beer fell.
Dropped the beer.
And the floats and
Beer fell. I'm sorry. It was just a little drop. Is this real zebra?
It's just
sorry.
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We're gonna have to.
You ready for another one? There,
I am actually.
Do you want one?
I'll be right back. Keep going.
You sure?
No, thanks, dude. I was I was captured in. Oh wait.
There's some more in the zebra right there in the black spot.
Yeah. I'll suck that up.
I'm good.
I was. I didn't realize my hand was moving as I was listening to you guys. You guys captured me
Body's
in the moment
still
there.
asleep.
Yeah, it is, dude. I feel so
Isn't that
relaxed.
Cool? Isn't it cool,
Dude, it's
man?
awesome.
It's weird.
This is the best. So, like I said, this is my 4th time doing this, I think, and this is the most relaxed. Thank you, sir. I've ever felt coming out of there.
Which is pretty incredible considering that you were going to come and do a podcast immediately afterwards.
Yeah. Well, that's
what
what
I mean?
I was telling Jesse is in the tank. I kept getting antsy because cheers, more cheers. I kept getting antsy because I was thinking, oh yeah, we get to podcast after this.
Exciting.
We get to sit and
tough.
conversate a little bit.
Actually, to kind of bring things back to these Cosmic Eye Municipal Waste beers.
Yes.
I actually had a question. Like, so you said his name is Sam?
Sam Riggins.
Sam Riggins. Yep. So Sam is a big metalhead, making beers for metal bands.
I feel like there's a proposal coming out.
I might happen to be playing in a heavy metal band.
Really?
Some people might call us heavy metal. We call it kind of a progressive Nintendo rock.
Pure Brown.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah,
Oh,
buddy.
holy shit.
Love Pure
How
Brown. You've got the
coincidental.
shirt on.
The very Pure Brown.
Levi's got the shirt on.
And so our drummer makes some fucking killer beer, man.
Yeah.
And so
Really?
he's trying to just kind of get it so it's a science, but every
Okay.
time I drink it, it's some of the best beer I've ever had.
Dude.
And so we're thinking, Pure Brown Ale. Like
That would be amazing.
Sam.
That's an amazing idea.
I will.
Sam.
I will send this video to Sam's inbox.
He's going to be
That
like,
would be
fuck,
awesome.
not only did he have his friend wear the shirt, but he set that up pretty obvious.
The whole reason we're here actually tonight is to get Pure Brown a beer deal.
That's a fucking money idea because you just recorded.
Yeah, you just
Well,
recorded.
that would take a while. Like, how long would be your CD release party then?
We're thinking
yeah.
about March is
no,
when-
that works.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
fine. Yeah.
And so nothing's set in
Dude,
stone
if
yet,
you could
but
get
we're
a
thinking,
brew-
there's a local beer,
I'll throw the party
local
out here.
bar that has local
Oh,
beers.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All you need is about a month and a half to brew a beer and let it ferment.
Dude.
If that, sometimes even shorter.
Yes.
Dude, I could get you in touch with Sam.
Ah, yeah,
that'd be really
yeah.
cool. That's what's so great about having all these local breweries around here.
Dude,
is that
this
you
is insane.
is that you could potentially just walk in and be like, "Hey, I've got this idea. Do you guys want to try to brew this?"
Dude, yeah, we were
Because
actually recording with Maddie
Are most
Sanders.
of those guys into
with
that,
the-
though,
Love
or
Matty
they-
the best drummer I've ever heard play.
Dude, really?
Dude, he's insane.
He's good.
Yeah, he played with the JV All Stars. I don't know. This was a band back when
Old
I was
school.
in middle school.
Yeah.
Old school.
Shit.
Oh my gosh, you should hear that guy
I'm
drum,
from Nebraska.
dude. Ooh, I'm from Nebraska. You know JV All
I
Stars.
remember those guys.
Yeah, guy's insane and such an awesome audio engineer too.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
that's what's so cool about beer here, dude. Is you can walk into any brewery, any local brewery here, and there's the owner, the head brewer,
Point.
standing right there in the tap room. You can just go talk to him and ask him questions.
Oh man,
It's
That's
fantastic.
what's cool about Nebraska in general.
Yeah, just in general.
Everybody
too.
used to bitch about that, right? I remember in high school, I guess I'm aging myself, but how old are you, Grady?
27.
That's what I was assuming. When you were saying 27 earlier, I was like, is he
Yep.
saying he's had 27 years of experience, or is he like rationally saying that probably around the age of 10,
first
plus
three-
27?
first 3
I was
years,
mute
we're
for
just
3
scrapping
years.
those.
Yeah. I'm actually 30. I was mute for 3.
Then there was that sabbatical where shit got weird. For a while.
The monastery. And,
Walked into my parents and
Didn't talk for a long time.
yeah. Oh yeah.
got
for
6
seeing
years
Mom.
there.
Yeah.
So going back to that though, so you're young, not like super young, but you still remember the age of being in Nebraska and being like, we get the leftovers, man. Like, we're the sloppy fifths. Or whatever it is. And that was such a bad thing. So you always try to be cool by saying, I'm going to move to California or something. Like, that was the
Exactly.
cool
That's-
fucking thing. Was
I'm
that
moving to
still
California.
Cool?
Yeah,
It was the cool thing.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. But now there's such an advantageous perspective that we get because we almost get this funnel and we get to be like preemptive in our examination and our implementation, et cetera, et cetera.
Excedrin.
But that's what's so cool, man, is like we do like these microbrews are kind of new to us, I guess. Like even the rail yard and everything else is primarily new. Like nothing was fucking really here before then. I mean, you had some cool stuff going on. So you get to do all these cool things now, i.e. podcasts, everything else.
Yep.
But so that's what's cool. You get to walk into a microbrewery. You get to, hey, this is the guy that makes the beer right here. This is the guy that does this. This is the guy that mows my lawn also. You know,
Yep.
it's all the same person,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly. And all these businesses popping up like Huddle.
Yeah.
You know, they just started from the ground up. Now they have this giant building
Yeah.
in the middle of the Haymarket.
Right.
Yeah, it is crazy how big they got.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. What do they call it? The Silicon Prairie.
Yeah, right. I
Over
read
here,
that
you know?
article a couple years ago.
It's cool.
The
just
Silicon
because
Prairie.
just because so many tech
I like
type
it.
companies are popping up here.
Okay.
In Omaha and Lincoln and
I think we have a real responsibility too. Like, this is what I want it to turn into because I know there's a few podcasts around town, but I kind of want the jovial fucking idiots that do these podcasts that are willing to just be not trying to be something we're
I love
not.
that jovial idiots.
Yes.
Guilty by association there.
Yeah,
I
Grady.
think there's so much talent here, man. Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many little incubators and cool things going on. There's and I know it's there, and I don't even know half of it because there's not a bullhorn. A lot of us don't live on social media,
Yep.
but it's here. Let's fucking keep it here. And that's why I thought it was so cool. Like a lot of the breweries you have on Nebraska Beer30, everything else, and vice versa. Some of the people we want to get on here and shedding light on each other with 5 listeners at a time. Hopefully, it grows in some local stature to where it's not some weird nationalistic Lincoln thing from a local standpoint, but it's because we care about our community and about some of the people that are doing really cool shit. Like I know there's a kid, those guys in the incubator are making protein out of grasshoppers, man.
It's
And
insane.
you know what? They're not going to stick
Yeah.
around in Prairie Silicon Valley, man. They're gonna go somewhere else where someone's
Or-
going to pay the money. But
we could keep them here.
keep them here.
Yeah,
that's my
or we
point.
could keep them here.
I'm
Yeah,
not saying that like we're influencers or anything like that, but there is an opportunity to create dialogue, to have discussion, to remove all the rhetoric and the bullshit that does come from the West and the East Coast, and have these Midwest conversations. It was because of something that's kind of been bred into us, and we can, kind of shine a light on that or push some noise through that bullhorn.
Oh yeah.
And I think, it just goes to show like that article talking about the Silicon Prairie, word's getting out that we're not just farmers on tractors.
Right.
It's like, it's insane to me to think about my buddy Brad Nordell. He's been on the podcast a couple times. He's a physicist here in Lincoln.
I love listening to that.
And
those
he-
episodes, dude.
Here at UNL on Innovation Campus, he works with the second most powerful laser in
I'm pretty sure
the
that dude's
United
floated.
States. I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
Brad's amazing. It might even be in the world. I can't remember what he said. It's either in the U.S. or the world. But it's like that's right here in
That's
Lincoln.
amazing.
Dude.
This crazy powerful laser.
So I used to work at this trophy store as a laser operator.
yeah.
Think your buddy Brad could get me in there, man?
I got this big ass trophy.
to have you asking a laser physicist
Dude, oh man.
in
Oh, yeah.
relation to our understanding of the world, which is not Because those are the questions that everybody, I would say the majority of people actually want to hear asked and answered, versus it already coming from a level of intellect and understanding and knowledge, which doesn't, symbolize what it is. If I ask a question to somebody like that, it's going to sound like most people asking me questions.
Like, oh man, there's so many times like when I'm like listening to your podcast with Brad Nordell. I mean, you guys were talking about Bob Lazar and all that awesome stuff.
That
was a fun one, dude. That was a real fun one. That was awesome.
So many times I just want to be a fly on the wall in there, dude. Just like, I want to, at the same time, a talking fly on the wall that could just pick his brain.
yeah. Brad.
Yeah. Like, Mr. Nordell, sir. Like how many watts is this laser? Like, can we laser engrave the Lord's Prayer on a pen? I want
That's he also has a podcast, by the way.
Really?
Shout out to Brad. It's called Science! With friends.
Ooh.
He has a podcast
Science!
Too.
With friends.
Science with friends.
I love it.
So check that out, everybody.
Yes,
that's what we need. We need more of this.
Yeah,
Hell yes.
we just need exposure.
Yeah.
People in Shanghai can listen to the Nebraska Beer30 podcast.
Okay, so
Or
back to the
Post-Float
original
podcast.
question though. Sorry.
Yep.
Why did you start doing what you did? Why do you like podcasting? Etc.
Excedrin. Well, I first started, I didn't really know what a podcast was until about maybe 2012, 2013-ish, something like that. And I started
You
listening.
brought it in from Vegas?
Huh?
Is that when you brought it in from Vegas?
No, I came here in 2001.
Oh, shit.
I was
Oh, wow,
established. I was
wow.
in Nebraska
You
by
were,
2012.
You were rocking and rolling. You were a Husker already. I first started listening to the 10-Minute Podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 10-Minute Podcast. Oh, man. It's like the funniest podcast you'll ever listen to. It's three comedians, basically. One's a comedic actor, but Will Sasso.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know who that is. Chris D'Elia,
Yep.
who's a famous comedian and podcaster. And Brian Callen, who's from Fighter and the Kid podcast.
I knew the 10-minute podcast.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
That's still going?
And the whole, no, not anymore.
Okay,
So
I didn't think so.
so.
That was a while ago.
The whole gimmick was it was just 10 minutes, and it came out on Mondays and Thursdays, and they would just fuck around. They would try to make each other laugh. They'd come up with characters.
That's fucking great.
And I fell in love, and I loved it. And from then I kind of branched off. I found out about Fighter and the Kid, which Brian Callen started with Brendan Schaub, the UFC fighter.
Brian Callen is coming to Omaha soon. Shout out Brian Callen.
I saw that. Maybe we can get Brian Callen on our podcast.
Yes, we'll do that.
I think he's doing like 2 days at the Funny Bone.
There you go. I'm sure he'd love to float.
Dude,
Come on in, Brian.
I'm gonna hit him up.
He was one of the originals with the whole Rogan crew.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So then from Fighter and the Kid, I got into the to JRE, Joe Rogan experience. And then I jumped around. I started listening to Congratulations, Chris D'Elia's podcast, and Theo Vaughn's podcast. I love
Dude,
Theo Vaughn.
he's fucking hilarious.
Dude, his mind
That dude's
is
a trip.
Oh, he's hilarious. But anyway, I just fell in love with podcasts. I love the idea that you can pick and choose what you want to listen to. You know, it's not public radio where you're just listening to somebody ramble on about whatever. You can just pick and choose. It's sort of like on-demand radio.
Do you think
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Do you think it's imperative though, the way you're doing your podcast, and now obviously we should get into this too a little bit, but that your podcast is going to be kind of rebirthing itself?
A little bit.
Ooh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of weird.
Coming out the womb again.
That's not verbal diarrhea. What is that?
Yeah, that's something else.
So yeah, you're putting on a new hat, right? A producer of the
producer.
Yeah, is
Nebraska
that the plan? Are you
Beer30
going to bring
podcast.
somebody on, or
Yeah.
what's the deal?
So we are in a little hiatus right now because producer Vince, R.I.P.
Yeah, rest
Rest
in peace.
in podcast. He has to take a step back from producing podcasts. He produced a few podcasts, but he's gotten so busy. He has a new job with KZUM. Actually, he's a board member, which is fantastic.
Nice.
Good for him. And yeah, he's got to take a step back and can't. He just doesn't have the time with BCN too.
Oh yeah, we had their card right there.
There you go. The Basement Creators Network live stream music.
Every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock.
We're doing all the drops. Science
It's like
with
you've
Friends.
been on there.
BCN. The Nebraska Beer30 Podcast.
There it is.
And he just got too busy and he has to step away. So yeah, you're right, Jesse. I have to put on the producer hat. I'm going to be running the podcast out of my basement now.
Right on.
Instead of Vincent's basement. And we haven't had a podcast for a week now.
Okay.
I think. Or
What
maybe
were
a
you
couple
doing it
weeks.
weekly?
So we would record, and this is how I plan on doing it in the future too. Every other Monday.
Okay.
So we record 2 podcasts on Monday
that's
night.
right.
So it's a week on, week off, week on, week off, basically. So we bank a few
Week
episodes.
on.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Week on, week off. One more time. And yeah, so that's kind of what the plan is for the future.
So what's your goal? Do you have any conception of what direction? Where do you want to take this podcast? What is it for you?
Well,
Why do you want to do it?
My goal.
Beer sponsors.
Beer sponsors.
Free beer.
Free
That's
beer.
it.
Beer.
All day long. My goal, I guess my overall goal has always been just to show people, the awesome people that Nebraska
That are in town.
has to offer.
Yeah.
You know, because kind of like you guys are doing too, you know.
Yeah.
Which is great because it sort of speaks to what we were talking about earlier, is that we need people to see how great this state is.
Yeah.
So they stay here or come here,
Yeah.
you know, because there's so much to do. And
I was listening to one of your episodes. It had the hops guy, the guy that had there's like the Nebraska Hops Association. Is that right?
Justin Rutledge.
Yeah. And he was talking about how like pretty soon they're gonna have like the Midwestern, potentially the I don't want to put any the Midwestern Hops Association, because they have some people in Iowa starting to join. But like just listening to like the process of how the hops are grown and how you break it up and you smell it and it smells so good.
Yep.
Like all that, like the hands-on, like getting your hands dirty stuff, like right here in the great soil of Nebraska.
Nebraska.
You know what I mean? Like just getting to hear that from the horse's mouth was so cool, man. Like, and you seem pretty knowledgeable about that too. like how like deep are your fingers in like the production side of beer? Like, have you made your own beer before?
If you drink enough beer, are you a producer?
Right?
Yes. Yeah. You're a producer out of something. You're producing something out of one end.
Yeah. What is your background in beer?
So I started my introduction into craft beer was in 2011. I was a merchandiser for a distributor here in town.
Which distributor?
Johnson Brothers distributor, based out of Omaha. So they sold beer like Deschutes Brewing out of Bend, Oregon, Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, so you were starting to
Granddaddy.
see some of the new stuff.
Exactly. So I started seeing this beer I've never seen before.
Non-Bud Light, non-Miller.
And when I first started merchandising, exactly, yeah. When I first started merchandising in 2011, you'd walk past the open-faced coolers at Hy-Vee's, and it was just rows and rows and rows of nothing but Miller Lite, High Life, Coors. That's all it was.
Bud Heavy.
Champagne of beers.
The banquet beer. Coors.
And this is Nebraska, man. I mean, that literally is... It was almost a prerequisite to live here.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude.
How dare you drink something else?
I go back to small town Fall City, man, and if you ain't got
you
nothing
get
but
in trouble.
maybe
You're
got more
the
than a
weirdo.
Bud Heavy.
You're a fucking
Bud
weirdo.
Light, you
What
pussy.
are you? Yeah. What's that you're drinking?
Oh,
Mother's milk?
Get caught with a craft beer, you're
Who
just
we
like,
got
oh,
in
you're
here?
one of them city boys.
Yeah, one of them city boys. You rode one of them pink horses into town. But yeah, back then it was nothing but domestic beer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you walk past it today and they don't have enough room for all this craft beer.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, I just started hell yeah.
I'm a big fan.
But I started picking up craft beer and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So I started studying it. There's a are you guys familiar with the Cicerone program?
No.
So do you guys know what a sommelier is, like for
I've
wine?
heard of it, yeah.
So
These are all new words to me.
So a sommelier
Play along with me, man.
is like a wine expert.
Oh,
like,
yeah, of course,
Like
yes.
the top tier of sommelier can sniff a wine, drink it, and tell you exactly what region of France or Italy it came from.
Cool.
I mean, it's just insane, their knowledge and their palates.
What's that name again?
Sommelier.
Sommelier.
So the beer version of that is Cicerone,
Okay.
basically.
Cicerone.
So I started studying through that program because I wanted to learn all about this. I fell in love with the culture too, just like we've talked about. The culture of craft beer is nothing but friendship and hugs.
It's true. There's definitely a culture that feels symbolic to just being laid back, being cool with people.
Exactly. I mean, it's being laid back. It's working hard. You know.
That's it.
It's working.
It is. That's what comes with it. It's the entrepreneurial workmanship, everything else, and
tilling the land, like literally growing the hops.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is so much based around helping the other guy out. Here in Nebraska,
we got to share, right?
Yeah, with these local breweries. The quote I always hear, I think I first heard it from Tim down at Boiler, the owner or the head brewer. He said, "A rising tide floats all ships."
For sure. Whoop. That's
so
all
these breweries are trying to help each other out. You know, if one brewery has a problem with something, another helps and says, "Hey, you can do it this way. You can do it this way." Everyone just wants everyone else to succeed because the more people are drinking local, the more they're going to hop around to every brewery.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just fell in love with that culture and how beer is produced and things like that. So I studied it for a while. I homebrewed for a little bit.
Ooh.
I never made anything stellar. A few of my last beers I homebrewed turned out pretty good. I haven't homebrewed for maybe a year and a half. It's been a while. I need to get back into it. But I got into that. I got into ingredients. You know, what ingredients do to a beer, the chemical process of changing the minerals in beer, or the minerals in water, things like that, to get your beer to taste like you want it. All that technical stuff.
Oh yeah, because you guys were talking about on that episode where like if you want to add the bitterness, like you don't want it to be too sweet because then it's like juice almost or something like.
Some people make their brand off of sweet beers.
Yeah. Some people.
It's kind of a big thing right now.
Or sweeter beers, sour beers, maltier beers.
Big sour fan.
I like myself sour.
I don't know shit about beer, but somebody's telling me like basically every beer, from the very beginning of beers, it was sour beers.
It was
technically right because you got this L with all this bacteria in it. And everything is going to be a sour beer.
The very start of brewing beer was basically people put barley into water, and they just let that water sit,
and you get all that wild,
and all that wild yeast would get in there and start eating up the sugar from this barley water.
Okay,
and it would turn the sugars into alcohol.
Yep.
But that wild yeast would make it sour. So the very first beers were
all sour.
Yeah, we're all sour beers.
Yeah.
Where
and when was that going on? Do you know?
That was like 2006.
Yeah.
Grand Island.
What time did you get to? Yeah. That was right when you moved to Nebraska.
Dude, they've been drinking beer forever.
Yeah, for a long time. I know ancient Egyptians were drinking beer.
That was literally
they found
it was
remnants
like a wine.
in the earliest city of man called Ur. I think it's in I don't know if it's like Somalia, but somewhere in like in Africa, like the earliest.
I'm pretty sure fermentation or anything like that's probably been.
They found like the earliest known man. It's
been around for a long time.
They found like residue of alcohol, or I don't know how they found. I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass again.
But I wish I knew this. I should know this.
Damn it!
Even like scurvy and things like that. They would drink a ton of fucking beer.
Yeah,
like they would just have barrels and barrels of L on the ships. I mean, they didn't have vitamin C or anything else, and
because it would kill bacteria, the alcohol.
Yeah, they didn't drink. They weren't like hydrating with 8 ounces.
For your health,
8 glasses of water.
For your health. Cheers.
Hey, you got your water, man. You haven't peed for a while. Yeah, they were drinking beer, and that's honestly, if you think about it, it's probably what was keeping them alive.
Yeah, it was. And beer too also provided a lot of protein because of the barley contents.
There's protein in this?
There's protein in
there's
there.
definitely protein here.
Oh, yeah.
Give me more of that.
But a substantial amount of protein.
Yeah. And then in the days when Egyptians were around, they would brew beer. It was kind of like a mix of wine and beer because they'd throw like grapes and stuff in there just for more sugar. They would brew it in these big pots. And then they would have big straws come out of it. So it was almost like a communal. It was like a fishbowl.
Down at
Duffy's. Yep. So that's how they would drink
the fishbowl.
The fishbowl. Yeah. You can thank the Egyptians.
If only they would
have
created like the hook and the fishbowl simultaneously.
Oh man, that'd be amazing. I'm sure they were smoking something.
Surgeon
Have you seen
General
those
just can't
pyramids?
keep up.
They were on something.
Apparently, they did some stuff that we still can't figure out.
Yep.
fucking weirdos over there.
Man.
Or it was the alien.
That's what it was. It was those fish bowls. That's the answer to the pyramids, man.
Yep.
That's it right there.
They were getting
Fish
drunk.
bowls.
Fish bowls.
Straws.
But yeah, anyway, so I fell in love with podcasts, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do this.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, what could I talk about? What could I do? And I love meeting people. I love talking with people.
It's beer
So I
social.
Thought, yep. And I thought, well, I love beer. I love talking about beer. I love talking to people. Let's start a podcast about that.
That's awesome, man.
Dude.
And then Beer30 just kind of came. It's almost kind of a lazy name.
It's actually
people say it's Beer30. They say it all the time.
It's brilliant.
But
It's kind of a niche though, because your podcasts are only like a half hour, right?
yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
So that's something I took from the 10-minute podcast. All their podcasts were 10 minutes, and I liked having a time limit. I don't know quite why I liked the time limit. I think it was because it's just a little more consumable. So you can look at that podcast and say, okay, that's 30 minutes.
mm-hmm.
Like I had one of our avid listeners, Cassie. Shout out Cassie from White Elm if she's watching this.
Yeah, we drank your saison.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Oh no,
That's
not. No. We had it first. You saw it. But anyway, she said she loves listening to the podcast when she goes and takes her dog for a walk because she knows the
Perfect
podcast for 30
amount of time.
minutes.
Oh, nice.
She takes her dog for a walk for 30 minutes. So I guess that's why I liked the time frame of it. Is you knew exactly, for the most part, exactly how long it's going to be. We've gone longer before, but
I think our podcast was a little, when Lost and Float was on the Nebraska Beer30 podcast, it was a little longer than 30
fucking
minutes.
it probably
Levi
was.
guy.
It probably,
Yeah.
and that's that's the other thing too is I never wanted to make it like a hard 30.
Right.
I
That's nice.
I wanted it to be around.
It's a rough 30.
Yeah,
30
keep
minutes.
it
A rough 30. Yeah.
yes,
Rough
yes.
30.
The dirty 30.
The rough 30. But yeah, that's how it started. And
Nice.
Vince, producer Vince, BCN Vince.
Shout out, Vince.
Shout out
Ooh.
Vince. He wanted to produce podcasts, and they were starting to produce BCN out of his basement.
Dude,
And he said, I'll produce it for you. So
God bless that guy.
God bless him. Dude, Vince is an incredible guy, man. The nicest guy you'll ever meet. And
Seriously, man.
one of the smartest you'll ever
The
meet.
coffee
too.
roaster, BCN, like now with KZUM, like the guy is making big moves, man. Like,
Yes.
I'm very, very
Making
happy
big
he's
moves.
not moving to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
sticking here.
You should hear him talking. You guys should get him on here to talk about coffee, too.
Oh,
Oh,
I can
I would
imagine.
love that.
Oh, dude, to hear him, he can just go and go and go.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude.
His knowledge.
I remember when we very first opened, like he was here in the very beginning, and I asked
He was
him
one of our first ones.
just one question. All of a sudden, I was like, I'm gonna be here for a while. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
and I'm all paranoid. I haven't floated many people at the time. I'm like, fuck, I gotta go check this tank, make sure everything's cool. And I'm just learning about coffee.
Yeah.
It's great. It's all about temperature, this and that and that. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
Filtered
he's-
versus distilled water.
Yeah,
Oh,
his
man.
knowledge is awesome. It's
See, that's
incredible.
where our problem is with our podcast is
We're experts in nothing.
fucking nothing.
That's perfect.
It's not true. I mean,
You guys are not experts in nothing, by the way.
pretty much nothing. Yeah.
Oh, dude,
Let me tell you about nothing.
yeah. Let me tell you about nothing. There it is.
this is my plan, and I know I'll get better at this, but it's really hard to just present during a podcast forum like this.
Yeah.
But I know I need to take the responsibility and do the work to understand that I love the idea of doing nothing, or almost forcing yourself to become an expert in nothing. But what I really want, what I desire, is to do nothing productively.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where I want to take this in a weird way. Obviously we do this together. We're just fucking off, literally. But
Yeah.
but you got to admit, from just dicking around a little bit, we're almost like, what are we supposed to be doing? Are people expecting anything? Are we supposed to be doing something? What's going on? Like what ours is, we're literally, one day we're like, hey man, we should do a podcast. But I don't know what we're going to talk about. Me neither, man. We'll just, throw up a camera and start talking. And
That's
that
what's
was
fun about it.
literally it,
Yeah.
So... But then you almost feel this sense of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You also feel this call to adventure, and you also feel this like public facing pressure and trying to distinguish, okay, should or shouldn't we have a concept, a direction,
time
what is
limit?
it? If I say no.
I mean,
No,
I
yeah,
see
just-
both sides of
yeah.
the coin because I
I definitely
love
see both sides of the
the
coin. I love
30-minute.
it. I love that
and
too.
one part of the reason I wanted,
And it seems
wanted to do
marketable.
Yeah, and the other reason I wanted to keep it to 30 minutes was because of that fear factor. Actually,
Yeah.
was
Ooh.
that I don't know if I can talk for
You're
an
gonna
hour.
start just fucking.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just do 30 minutes. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
I can fill 30 minutes. I don't know if I can do a full hour.
Dude.
So I was fearful of filling. And that's something you guys are really good about doing on this podcast. You guys are very articulate.
Articulate. Dang old man.
Articulate. Y'all so articulate.
We won't be after a couple more of these cosmic eyes and white elms.
Sam.
Something I think you guys do well is you make, at least for me, you make me think a little bit more about being mindful, about thinking how my brain works. I don't do that. I don't think about what I think about. I don't think about what I think about.
Well, it's deep.
Honestly, makes perfect sense, man.
Until I listen to your guys' podcast.
See, I'm obsessed with that idea.
You guys do such an awesome job of that.
And
you guys actually make me think.
Oh, no.
Call the fire department.
Stop it right now.
Oh, dude.
So I'm absolutely obsessed with that idea. And I know Jesse is too. Like, if we could record ourselves talking off the podcast.
Oh, man. We'd have some real material.
We might actually do okay. But that's the truth, too, is like there is this front-facing kind of responsibility that you put on yourself, which we don't need to do. But we almost need to learn how to articulate that correctly to be like, what I think we both agree on this, man. But what I dream of is just this form of this fucking safety bubble. You sit either in the studio upstairs or on this couch or wherever the studio ends up and basically just imagine this fucking bubble that comes around you and you're safe. You can say whatever. What is it? Circle of trust and like Meet the Fockers?
Yeah.
Circle of trust, man. That's what I want because I'm under the impression, I could be wrong, that like I said earlier, we're all basically the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we're all just fucking trying to figure this thing out as we go. And granted, as depressing as it sounds, this whole fucking boat's sinking. We're all on it simultaneously. Yes. But if that's so awesome because the only way there could be a sinking boat is if we can actually examine it. And the only way you can have joy is if there's something to examine that, yes, it's sinking, but it's there. And I think everybody flirts with these desires of wanting to allow their thoughts. Let me slow down. So this is what I was thinking about in the float tank a little bit. Not to go too deep. I know. Here we go. Fuck.
Back in the tank.
So I'm obsessed with this idea of taking time to do nothing productively, like I said, because I think there's these doors of perception that can be. It's not like you can see this door and you work on jamming the lock, getting it open, everything else, but there's doors there. And usually what we're doing is we have these devices that we carry around with us all day, every day. We have these devices right here. We can sit here and talk to each other. We have Netflix at home. We could technically distract ourselves for the rest of the time and never have to ever fear the idea of self-actualization or anything. It's obviously possible.
That's what I spend my day doing, distracting myself.
And I'm not opposed to that. Like whatever like desires you have or whatever like pulls on your strings, man, do it. I used to like. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I want everybody to be a little bit more honest. If I'm right, I could be wrong, but I think if everybody ever took the time to be a little bit more honest and they had that bubble and that circle, that most people would say that is what I do, but it ain't working.
Yeah,
and it's something that I have to have engaged almost at all times, or I'm a little nervous. And so instead of taking it as a looking at it differently, I guess, and examining it for what it could be, it's easier to avoid that and plug in something else. Real quick, real fast, keep going. But before you fucking know it, your health is failing, this and that, and then you're that same sad cyclical story that you always heard, the person on the deathbed. What advice do you give? And they always say the same kind of shit, It's not about money, it's about health and family and experience and the realized life type stuff, but we just keep doing it. So somehow I want to turn this into this fun playful thing where we learn from people that are simple, but I want people to almost come on here to just be like like a little bit like I just like but in the non-safest place ever, because you're literally doing it recorded and we're going to shove it out to everybody.
Well, you guys are succeeding because I've never talked about how like I was so fearful of talking to people for a long time.
Well, you know what I think that does? I think it makes the person who is not 27 years talking only going to have to go 20 years. or 15 years or 10 years, or the insecure kid, the bully at school who realizes that's really my fucking problem. I don't need to go punch this other kid and make myself feel powerful. I'm insecure too. Oh, good. It's Grady was. He has this beautiful podcast voice. He's fucking perfect. He's got everything figured out. He knows everything about beer. What am I doing in my life?
Maybe I could learn about beer. Maybe I could start doing it.
Nice.
Or just, maybe I'm not into beer, but people are into stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you just start going, well, what stuff? And then that could immediately be a scary little existential spot. But like, I don't have stuff. Don't worry, man. There's this thing that is literally just being conscious that is just full of everything that's happening right now. And all you got to do is just be with it once in a while.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't distract it all the time. Every once in a while, be with it, because inside of there is literally everything that you conceive of happens within that space.
Yep.
And within that space, you're going to see something. You're going to hear something. Hence why I want to have people on podcasts. Like, I already learned more about beer and other things that I ever have. And I'm so curious about people.
Oh, man.
So what were we talking about? What's going on?
What's going on?
Man, see, that's why I love the podcast. you guys are so insightful, man. You really are. This is stuff I don't, like you said, people get caught in this trap, like routines of being distracted all the time. Mm-hmm. Going to work, just thinking about work. All you're thinking about is work. When I'm in the car, I listen to podcasts. I'm not thinking about my thoughts or anything. That's why I think you guys. That's why I listen to you guys, is because I get to think about being more mindful. And I like what you said a couple podcasts ago about how everything. What did you mention? You said something about everything is coming into your consciousness.
Yeah, dude.
Like you're not. How did you explain it?
So it wouldn't be a Postville podcast if I didn't mention the Sam Harris meditation app.
That would have been bad.
But using Sam Harris's meditation app, he talks about how pretty much every experience you have is coming into your consciousness. Like our experience is like we're looking out the window of our eyeballs that are seated in our head, right?
Yep.
Like we're looking out into the world. But that's not honest. That's not true. Like a light and everything is coming into our head and it's coming into our consciousness, and then our consciousness forms this reality that we experience. Mm-hmm. And so the feeling of having a head is actually inside your consciousness. So it feels like your consciousness is inside your head looking out, but actually your head is inside your consciousness. I mean, it's like, so it's really, really confusing. Like when you first start to like think about like mindfulness and stuff like that, it's like, wait, what? Like say that again? Like, okay, yeah. So yeah, it feels like, your consciousness is inside your head, but your head is inside your consciousness. And so it's like, step back and think about that for a second. It's like, okay, like what does that mean? Like, so it's like I'm processing all this in here. So you close your eyes, and you remove the visual field, and so you still have this consciousness realm inside, this world right here. Like, oh man, I have a lot of fun in the float
I like
tank.
how you do that, because you were actually just trying to let us visualize and see it.
Yeah, that's so right. Yeah, but
it is.
That's so cool. Yeah, the idea of having a head all from your consciousness.
A lot of that starts to build up to like just being aware of all the perceptions that are coming in, of just not just the external reality, but your internal reality, like the way you feel about what's coming into your perception and your consciousness. And so eventually you can start to like detach the idea of the perceiver of this stimuli. Like the self, the self, right? Because who is that? Like, because like this is like, I've gone through the whole introduction of the meditation course now, and so like a lot of this like end goal, and I was doing this a lot in the float tank today, which is so fun. I recommend it. If you can get to the point where you're like just like thinking about your breath, and you can watch your thoughts kind of like float by, or you can start to see a thought as an object in your consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so then like when you start to notice yourself getting lost in thought, you look at the thought itself. The thought will kind of unravel. And then at that moment, you can go, okay, now look at the thinker. Look at who is thinking the thought. Turn attention around on itself and go that way. You know what I mean? Because we're going this way always.
Right.
And so it's like, that's a tension. There's a tension. I'm looking at Grady. I'm looking at Levi. I'm looking back at Grady. Now look inside. And just to go back into the thinker. Who's the thinker? And doing that in the float tank, holy shit. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Like, because you ever get to the point in your float where you're kind of like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to start floating around and playing around. That's when I kind of go back to my breath. I go, okay, back to the breath. Okay, I'm going back to like the feeling of getting antsy and wanting to get out. Okay, now who the fuck's thinking this?
Yeah, yeah.
And I go, and it's just like, and it's always fleeting.
Oh, it's super fleeting.
So fun.
But those are the skills. That's your smartphone, man.
Yeah.
Like when I was saying earlier, like you always have this device. Technically, you could go the rest of existence without being quote unquote bored again. Period.
Yep. You're never bored.
But you're not, man. And those skills they're so easily obtained. Honestly, it's easier to pick up skills like that than to practice learning to kick a soccer ball.
Yeah.
Honestly,
10
it's
minutes a day.
Fucking easy.
Just sitting there.
And all you have to do is do
so
it.
much easier.
And so when you do it, you learn it through experience and you get these little things. But yeah, you're sitting in a float tape, and we've met a million people like, I couldn't make an hour in there. Well, guess what? If you have all these toys that are at your predisposal, literally, it's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
like when you
dude.
said, when you're like, I'm getting a little, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, that's my.
You're in this fucking magical world, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like right back into
It's
it.
incredible. And I think that's what it's all about. I really do.
Yeah,
It's so fun, dude.
Because like you guys say all the time, when do you ever get to do this? When do you ever get to be alone with your thoughts?
I found a
like
really
this
cool, fun thing
for
to
an
do
hour?
today. Like I've never did this before until today, and so like I had this cool thought in the float tank, and I didn't want to forget it. And I'm trying to like, so I have this. I don't know. It's like, you know how you try to remember something? So it's like in my head, I'm just like, okay, I gotta remember this idea so I can remember it later.
Yeah,
Like so I'm remembering this thought idea, and so like, but I remember hearing about Joe Rogan, how he's got like a voice activated like recorder in his float tank. So whenever he comes up with a good idea, he can just say whatever it is he's
a comedian. He has to.
Yeah.
He's got to remember that stuff.
So I was thinking, I was like, oh, I need one of those in here, ding dong. And then like I'm sort of thinking like, okay, well I had an idea because I was listening to Matthew Walker today talk about sleep. Dr. Matthew Walker.
Dude,
talking about
I
sleep.
love that guy.
Oh man, he was talking. I was listening to his episode of Rhonda Patrick, and it's great. And he so I was thinking like, okay, so
We're
now,
totally fucking up our sleep right now, by the way.
yeah, we are.
We are.
The double-edged sword.
All right. So I'm laying there having this great idea in the float tank, and I'm thinking like, I want to remember this. And I know Joe Rogan uses the voice activated thing to remember his things. And so I was thinking, well, it's like if I had that in there, if I were to talk, like thinking about Matthew Walker, like if I were to talk, would that bring me out of my like lower brainwave level where I'm having all this creativity up into like a higher brainwave level enough to talk?
Right.
Will I lose that like kind of?
Have you ever talked to yourself in the float tank?
A little bit, yeah. But like, I didn't want to.
Interesting.
So this is.
I don't think I ever have done that. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I've definitely done some.
I thought that's
talking
where
in
you were
there.
going to go with that.
So I got to the point where I was
Some
just like
chanting.
I was gonna say, I wanted to say out loud, remember this, right? Like that's all I wanted to do was just to say it out loud, but I didn't want to say it. So I got to the point where I was going to say it. Like this is fucking crazy, man. Like I was like feeling like my brain, like I don't know if I was feeling like the neurons fire telling my mouth to talk, but I would hold back the sound. So I'm like going like I could feel my mouth
saying
and
it,
my tongue forming the words to remember this, but I wouldn't let any sound come out. So I'm like, dead air. But like, that's what it was. It was just like the point of speaking, but without speaking, like feeling my brain fucking freak out. Like, I could feel like the connectedness of the parts of my brain. I don't know if it's true, but it felt like I could feel the parts of my brain that tell myself to talk, whoever I am. It was firing in there, just like so bright, and my head is just like, wow.
See what
That's a
you're,
good
even
test
what
of
you're
discipline,
saying.
So fun, dude.
Even what you just did right now was some of the most like self-aware shit I've ever heard.
Dude, it was so fun.
So just in of itself, watching you go through that story about thinking this and feeling this and going through this. When was the last time you did that? If you're listening to this podcast,
last time I tried to tell somebody about a dream or something.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But sometimes your dream you've already scripted out.
Yeah.
You've already hopped all those abysses, everything else, and you've already got your script. You're ready to tell somebody. You're prepared.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What you just said was a fucking experience that made goddamn no sense.
I
But
just
you
did
know what it is because we've all had those experiences where Or like you're younger and you're gonna go talk to this girl you really really like, and you're fucking just jumping at all levels, right hemisphere, left hemisphere, upper brain, lower brain. It's just fucking. The integration is just almost maddening to where you can't even make sense of it, but you followed it in a float tank, which is cool.
Oh, dude.
So imagine going to talk to that girl for the first time and watching yourself externally, like, and just watching and listening to the thought.
Oh, dude.
That's so fucking amazing.
It was such a fun exercise, dude.
You become the passenger.
Like, tell yourself to talk, but don't let yourself talk, and feel your brain do its thing.
But here's the tricky part, man, is I've done things like you're talking about, and then I realize I think I'm just watching myself do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually fucking doing
Who's
it.
in charge,
man?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had that kind of
that fucks me up, man. When I'm like, oh, now it's ruined, man, because I don't know how to do it again. Like, wait, I was doing that because that's incredible.
Once I figured it, and then I was like,
all
do
day.
that again, and then I just like was laying in there playing, and then I would do that. Okay, now who's thinking? And I just go back and forth, like doing all that just fun shit.
And that's so much funner than coming back to like what Grady said earlier. I worked out and did all this stuff today. It was like 3:00. I'm like, sweet, I get to eat now. And I've been suffering with this weird instant gratification that I haven't had lately. My mindfulness, I'm losing this battle and I'm fighting it. Hopefully I'm winning it, but it's not good. I quit chewing. And so
swallowing everything whole.
Masticating is not good. That's not what you do, man.
Anaconda style.
Yep.
All right.
Just gulp it down.
Quit chewing. No more chewing tobacco, huh?
Like a duck.
1 meal a year.
Yeah.
Like a duck. Then I feed my children with it. Their chest a little bit so they don't have to chew it because they haven't learned how not to chew yet.
Yeah.
People, right?
You'll learn, Jimmy.
It's a life.
I keep finding myself searching for these little instant gratifications I don't normally do. But today it was weird. I had a fucking great workout, everything else. I had a good meditation practice, and then all of a sudden I went home like, oh, I get to eat. I get this fucking mouth pleasure that's my instant gratification right now. It is. It's just, it's fucking bad. So I'm eating. Well, that's not enough. Man, this fucking amazing bowl of food isn't enough. I'm going to listen to this podcast simultaneously. Well, that's not enough. While I'm eating and listening to this podcast, I better scroll through the Twitter feed and see if there's anything good.
Dude, I do that all the time.
Fucking 5 minutes in. See, like, we all do this, right? But I take a lot of time, and I put a lot of concerted effort into being self-aware. And so luckily I catch these things now. Immediately, I'm just sitting there going, what the fuck am I doing? First of all, I'm not enjoying this food. I'm not listening to this podcast. I haven't read a goddamn word that I've actually read in the last 5 minutes. And I just remember sitting there going, fuck. Like,
what am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah. I've caught myself doing that. And since I've been catching myself doing that, eating breakfast while a podcast is going and scrolling through Instagram or whatever.
Exactly.
I've tried to. So in the morning, I go and work out, and then I get home and I make breakfast, and that's when that all happens. So I try to, instead of turning on a podcast or looking at my phone, I just don't do anything. I just eat.
Nice.
And I just let my thoughts be my thoughts, and that's it.
That's awesome.
I try not to have many distractions. And I love it.
It's fucking awesome.
And I've tried stand-up comedy a few times.
Nice.
And I've done a couple open mics.
Really?
Just 3 or 4. And those are I've realized that when I shut everything off and I'm just sitting there with my own thoughts, I come up with like some of my best bits or material. Just because I give myself the chance to, you know?
It's fucking weird because, you're just turning down the volume on one receiver and you kind of get a chance to turn up the volume on the other receiver.
Yeah.
But, and that's it.
I would totally listen to the Netflix Grady McGuire special.
Yeah, 100%.
Nowhere near that,
dude,
man.
Get this going, dude.
I remember.
So where did you do it at? Like Duffy's or?
The first 2 times was at Duffy's.
Okay.
And then I've done it twice at the Storm Cellar, which is over off of like 14th and Arapahoe.
Where the Basement Creators is now
where the Basement Creators now film. Ladies and gentlemen.
When was your last open mic night? How long ago?
It was a while ago. It was about a month ago.
That's not that long ago.
Pretty recent, dude.
I need to do it. I need to do it more. Because that's how you get good with stand-up is you just do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do right now, 9 to 5? Anything?
I work for a beer distributor here in town. I work for K&Z Distributing, which is the Miller distributor, basically. That's kind of the bread and butter.
Champagne of beers.
The champagne of beers. High Life. High Life is my go-to domestic. I love High Life. But we get to sell. We sell White Elm. We sell Zipline.
Cool.
We sell Lucky Bucket. We sell Empyrean.
Sell Cosmic Eye?
No,
Come
Cosmic
on!
Eye. I wish.
Are they distributed right now?
I don't know.
They are.
Right?
They are.
They
Yeah.
are.
I have no idea how any of this works.
I get to sell and work with these awesome local breweries. That's my favorite thing to sell.
That's
Hell
super
yeah,
cool.
dude.
So that's what I do. I work downtown. My territory is basically in between Highway 77 and 27th Street,
Okay.
and then the furthest.
So all those downtown bars are you?
Yeah.
So how do
basically.
you convince like a bar like Brothers to put Cosmic Eye on their tab, dude?
So that's
Is
the
that
thing.
tricky or is it cool now? Is it
That's
like the cool thing?
That's the thing about this business is there's only so much real estate, right?
100%.
Every bar only
Yeah.
has so many tap handles,
Right.
And they want you putting Miller on there
and
too.
they want
Yeah.
you to put Miller
Sorry.
on, and
Put you on the spot there.
oh no, you're good. Some people are really really good salesmen.
Yeah.
They're very good salesmen. They can tell you exactly why you need this beer on tap, why it's going to benefit your customers. I sell customer service. So I try to do I do everything and anything to make sure that the customer is happy with exactly what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I may not be the best salesman in the world, but I am the most loyal person the most loyal salesperson you're ever going to have in there. So
I can see that.
So I try to make sure people are happy. I try to make sure the beer that they have on tap or that they have in bottle is working for them. And if it doesn't, we're going to try something new. If they need something ran to them real quick, I'm going to run to the warehouse and I'm going to run it back. So, but yeah, so the beer industry it's very competitive. It's very cutthroat.
Totally.
So wait, you distribute White Elm?
Yes, distribute White Elm.
'Cause I also thought that this pure brown ale would be great on the White Elm
On the
market.
White Elm market. Cassie, if you're listening, dude, I bet they would. Man, Colby at White Elm is, again, one of the nicest people. Oh, dude.
Like White Elm pure brown beer. I mean, come on.
There you go. White Elm, pure brown. Again, I can get you in touch. I'll get you in touch.
Boy.
But, yeah, that's what I do 9 to 5 is I drive around
So
downtown.
Brothers,
and sell
1867, bodegas, that's all you?
Yep. Yeah.
That's a tough little route too, man. Like, so did you start? Were you bringing beer in and out of the stores and all that stuff beforehand before it comes sales?
Yeah.
Were you driving?
No, I never drove. I never
Okay.
was like a semi driver.
You didn't earn your dues.
I was a merchant.
man.
I know. I did do it. I have done it a couple times. I've helped drivers out before.
That looks like the hardest.
Dude, they
fucking
work
job
so
ever.
hard.
They're such hard workers,
Especially downtown. So
especially downtown.
And
You got to go
park
down
right in
those
the middle
little.
of O Street.
Can you
like they
imagine
do.
those little basements?
and then
Oh, man.
exactly,
Kegs.
and then you got to haul kegs downstairs. Yeah, it's insane.
Oh.
Those
Savages.
guys, they get a workout in
Yeah.
every morning, man.
Trying to find a place to park.
I love those
That's
guys.
tough.
I appreciate those guys so much. But yeah, so I started out as a merchandiser, which was
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of touched on that earlier when I got into
did you
craft
make
beer.
it? Do you have anything you're super proud of?
like display?
The Nebraska Beer 30
That's right, I
Podcast.
did.
The
Yeah, Nebraska Beer 30 Podcast. All in.
I've seen some pretty amazing ones, man. When you walk
Yeah,
in there,
there's
you're
some
like,
cool
dude,
stuff.
that guy was here for a while.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually been some really cool White Claw ones recently.
Okay.
Where
Oh.
there's like a wave of White Claw cases. Anyway,
nice.
but we sell White Claw too.
I've never had one.
The Claw.
All my friends are into it. I've never had a claw.
Yeah, it's not really my thing, but
What
love
is
it.
it?
It's a hard seltzer.
Oh yeah, that's the thing right now, right? Seltzer.
Seltzer. Yep.
That's
It's like the new age wine cooler in that.
Yeah,
right,
basically,
right?
basically.
Like,
My
way-
wife loves that
my
stuff. too.
mom used to drink those.
only 100 calories, like 2 carbs.
See, now you're the opposite of the guy talking shit about the kid not coming in and buying a Bud Heavy.
exactly.
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
What's
see,
that
yeah.
seltzer shit, boy?
What's that seltzer? What pony did you ride in on?
Wine coolers
But
for my mother.
You need a Zima,
yeah, where's the Zima? That's what people say.
Jolly Rancher.
People say White Claw is the new Zima.
Is that?
Oh,
it?
is that okay? I never had one of those either, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was too busy drinking that Bud
never
Heavy.
had a
That Bud
Zima?
Heavy, brother. Bud Heavy, brother. But so anyway, I started off as a merchandiser, then I got into sales. So
Okay.
I initially sold Sierra Nevada, Deschutes, Odell. I still that beer's phenomenal still.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deschutes is still a sweet beer.
Oh, they're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And then from there, I left the distributor side and went to work for Backswing Brewing Company.
Nice.
Right when they opened up, which was a fun experience because I got to brew beer on an industrial scale. I got to learn how they started the business, how they ran the business.
Bucket to a giant vat.
Exactly, yeah. 5 gallons to 465 gallons.
Dude, that's nuts.
Crazy.
That's nuts.
So that was fun learning that side. I was the salesperson for Backswing, so I would go around Lincoln and Omaha and sell Backswing, and then I moved over to K&Z Distributing, so where I am now. I've been there for about a year and a half, but
nice.
Yeah, I'm just sticking with beer, man.
Yeah,
I love to do it.
It's working for you.
Yeah, I love to do it, and I love the people that surround it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Man, it is. Beer's a good thing, man.
Yeah, brings people together.
I was like social drinking.
It was about 2 years ago, I think we did the Sober October. Like when we first started the Flow Shop.
Yeah.
And like afterwards, Levi and I went and got a beer, and like we were talking about just like, like being sober is great. Like being sober is great. Like for the sober people, like sober is great.
Yeah. Especially if you need to be sober.
And moderation, right? Like, don't be a drunk asshole.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation, but at the same time, like including moderation.
For sure.
Like a beer every once in a while. Like Levi was just like, I don't think I would trust anybody that doesn't drink a beer.
No.
Every once in a while.
I'm such a judgmental fuck when it comes to that.
I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean.
And I'm kind of one of them now with kids and everything else, and the fact that I have to be responsible. But no, if somebody,
you got something you do.
There's
got
it. I love that. I love that little bit. Yeah.
Little something.
You need that little something, man. I'm cool with that. As long as I know you have one and you're being just like everybody else, because you are just like everybody else.
Right.
I'm cool with it.
We're all
I just trust that, man. I'm going to find out I'm wrong one day. But I honestly believe we're all basically the fucking same.
Oh, yeah.
Which also brings the ability to be pretty sympathetic to almost fucking anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's real ability then for compassion, and you can go pretty goddamn deep down that rabbit hole where you can just be remotely 0.0001% sympathetic for kind of the worst people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we're all in this goddamn weird self-aware existence together of what the fuck.
Hitler was a great guy in my book. It's all perception.
He did wonderful things for the economy of Germany.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, his whole philosophy was fucked.
I kid. No, but I know what you mean.
Of course you kid. But then again, to be perfectly honest, worst fucking thing to say on a podcast that goes to the public, but you technically could be 0.00001% sympathetic with somebody like fucking Hitler because he's a goddamn human being. Is he a piece of shit? Mm-hmm. Yes. But
he was a terrible artist.
Was he actually a terrible artist?
Yeah.
Was he? He's a terrible person.
But
man.
yeah, it's just that you've said it before on the podcast, Levi. People want to be happy.
Yeah.
That's at the base of everything. People just want to be happy.
I think it's the base of everything. Yeah.
It's like,
well, it makes it hard too. So if you're working on a narrative, and I honestly wonder why some people don't gravitate more towards mindfulness, just from the obvious of like, you just assume there's better shit to do because the instant gratification is going to be represented much quicker, easier, readily available all times with the immediate return. So just on the onset, you're like, hey, okay, get it, makes sense. But I wonder why some people tap into it a little bit and then back out a little bit. And one of the questions I always have is, for instance, we've talked about this many times, and we're not anti anything, but we're very secular. I
don't even know what that means, to be honest. It's about what does that mean?
It's pretty. It just means basically you don't subscribe to any type of specific religion or ideology.
Okay, yeah, I don't go to any like organized. I'm not against church. I'm not against the idea of God. I'm not like an atheist. I'm not some sort of religious person. But like I don't go to like any organized religion or nothing.
But my point being is like if you start to go and lay in a float tank or lay in a room by yourself or just sit in a chair for 10 minutes by yourself and you start to let the eyes of perception view your own self-awareness, a lot of that shit that you may or may not be avoiding is going to be there.
Presented, yeah.
It's going to be presented every single time. First and foremost, that's the most important ingredient that I believe is going to produce this peace and happiness. However, there's this immediate fear, I think, of you've already integrated something. You've woven in the fabric some way or one way or another. That's a blanket that tucks you into bed every night. And anything that might start to pull that blanket off from, the foot of the bed or whatever is super uncomfortable.
So it's like identifying with the ideology, right? Identifying with the religion or whatever. Like
you might realize that you're identifying with an ideology, but it's already just become paramount to your existence already. So you've guaranteed yourself a hopeful future.
So you'll avoid anything that questions.
Fuck yeah!
Removing the part of you that it's a part of you, right? And so it's like you can't like.
That's my opinion. Yeah,
not be a part of you, like so. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think.
So that's what I see being the case. But unfortunately, I believe that puts blinders on, that doesn't allow for the potentiality for this boat ride for you to be able to get the most experiences possible, the most productive experiences, the most profound experiences, the most
profound. Levi said profound.
The most how do I say shared experiences, which I think is pretty key to a very happy, willful, and a joyful life.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you never get to take it from level 1 to level 2 because the next level of the video game might be a little too difficult or whatever it is, but that's just part of life. So I fear that it's an avoidance that, if you gravitate towards that, or if that's your thing, I don't have a problem with it all. I want you to do it. You do. I just always wonder if you wanted to get the full experience, it might be necessary to allow yourself the uncomfortability of those
question,
things.
Not being so closed-minded in a way.
Because I remember
having an open mind.
Modest Mouse. Sorry, we're probably going long, and I'll shut up here in a second. But I remember that old Modest Mouse album where he's like, I hope for you heaven and hell exist. You wasted life. Why wouldn't you waste death? So the thing is, if you are going to take life in stride, if you're happy, by all means. I'm definitely not saying yes, please. That's awesome, man. Be happy. If you're not, and you could take that next step, then do it, man. Because what's the alternative? So one day you're going to do it. I think it's just going to be the same thing, kind of replicating itself over and over again. And I think there's just some opportunities for us to, really truly have an examined life, and that's going to spread to everybody else, and that's going to just raise all boats, man. And that's the thing. So,
wow, way to bring it back.
Say hi to yourself.
Damn, you're good.
Hey, man. But anyway, sorry. This was fucking awesome, Grady.
Yeah.
So
Thank
suck
you for
at
coming
this.
on here.
Jesse,
how long have we gone?
Fucking fantastic.
I'm terrible at this.
Yeah, how long did we go? You did great, man.
Hey, man, I'm shitting out my ass like the rest of us.
Yes. Wait, what?
I don't know what that means, but
I don't even chew.
This is a lot longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, we went a while, man. We all got to go to work in the morning, so should we probably tidy this up? Anything you want to end on, Grady? Grady?
Grady?
Grady.
Cedrin?
Always brush your teeth.
It's a good idea.
In the morning and before you go to bed.
Especially,
I like that.
Get the tongue.
On a
People
Make sure
you got to
get
get that tongue, man. I know that's just kind of like the aesthetic side of brushing your teeth because you just don't want to have a stinky face. But nobody likes a stinky face.
No one likes a stinky tongue.
Get that tongue.
Sorry, Becky.
Been avoiding the tongue.
She says I have a hairy tongue.
A hairy tongue. Kissing me with that hairy tongue.
We always go out on something pretty here.
Oh, yeah. Listen to the Nebraska Beer30 podcast.
Yes, please do. Oh yeah, we need to get so much better.
You play
at this.
music,
Also,
don't you, Grady? You play in the Sedmantics, don't you?
I do play in a band.
What do you play?
Yeah.
I play guitar.
The guitar, don't you?
I play bass. I wish I could play drums. I try to play drums. I don't play drums.
Does the
drums don't get
Sedmantics,
enough respect, do they?
Your band, the Sedmantics, do they have any shows coming up anytime soon?
We don't at the moment. We just got an email about Lincoln Exposed in February.
Nice.
So Lincoln Exposed in February.
Sweet.
Check out the Sedmantics. But most of all,
Sedmantics.
listen to the Nebraska Beer30 podcast.
Yes.
Also, keep listening to the Post Float podcast. These guys are doing an awesome job.
Thank you, Grady.
Well done, guys. Yeah, seriously, this is so much. It's so much fun to listen to,
dude.
It really is.
Having a pro on like you helps.
Yes,
man.
thank you.
You make us sound good, dude.
Yes.
You guys are too kind. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate
Absolutely,
it.
man.
Yeah, I'll play a little ditty here from a group I play with called Mr. McMoney.
By the way, if we do another late show, we gotta make sure that we keep the air running.
It's a little warm, huh?
It's fucking hot
Is it?
in here.
I feel great.
You doing good?
Probably because of the float. I feel great.
Gosh, that's what it is. Floats make you feel awesome all the time. You never get hot, never get cold. You're going to be perfect for the rest of your life. Come float.
So Mr. McMoney is playing hot stuffing cold turkey this Wednesday and Friday. Put on by Craig Mustard.
Yeah.
Dude, Theo Vaughn actually name dropped my buddy Craig's brother, Chad Mustard, the other day on his podcast.
Really?
Kind of crazy thing happened. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll just play a little teaser here. Here we go. The song is called "Buy the Farm and Eat It Too." I need a pick.
Round 2.
Brush your pick.
Yeah, right. Oh God.
Oh
God.
Jesus.
Man down.
Oh, we're good. Still good.
So that's the intro of the song. I won't torture you with the rest.
I think you should name that song Brush Your Tongue. That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sounds a lot better with the whole band, let me tell you that. And nice. I haven't had a couple of these delicious Cosmic Eye beers.
Municipal waste.
Cosmic Eye, Pure Brown, White Elm, Pure Brown. I think it all has a ring.
There we go.
Nebraska Beer30
Yes,
Podcast.
the purest. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's fun.
Sweet. That was awesome.
I seriously was getting hot.
Were you?
Yeah.